Hi, you guys. Yes, this is part two of Ever Had a Partner in Crime. Now, we know when we say partner in crime, it could be an actual crime or just childhood jinx and mischievousness. In this case, it is the latter. Okay. So, on this particular one, if you haven't seen the first one, you'll probably want to watch that one because that was my first lesson in trying to have a partner in crime. This one happened to be the second and final lesson. So, after that, whenever I did anything that I shouldn't be doing, no one else was in on it with me, okay? And it wasn't that often in my life, but let's be real. We all get into things every once in a while. At this particular time, I was about 11 or 12, and I was in middle school. And as you know, well, those of you who've seen any of my prior videos know that I was really a complete nerd. I mean, I loved school, I loved all my classes, all my subjects. Every teacher was my favorite teacher. But honestly, my English teachers were my favorite because I loved reading, spelling, writing, speaking. I just gravitated to that. So usually my English teachers were my favorites, but that's neither here nor there. On this particular day, was on my way to class, and for some reason I was running late. So I think from one class to the other, I was going to stop at the restroom, and so you guys still have to be in your class before that second bell rings, or you're considered late. Well, that second bell was about to go off, and a friend of mine from a different class happened to see me, and she was running late for her class as well. So she was like, "Hey, Sherry, if we are late, we're gonna have to, they give you a pass, and you have to go to your, it's not the principal's office, but it's your, what do they call these things back in the day? They were like over the teachers, but they didn't call them supervisors. They called them something else. But anyway, you have to go and see that person, and you have to tell that person why you were late. And then if they thought it was a valid reason, they would give you a pass to go back to your class. If it wasn't a valid reason, then you had to spend that time in their office, like doing homework or doing something, but you weren't allowed to go back to that class at that time. And if you get too many of those, of course, they would call your parents and say, we need to get this fixed. But anyway, I never had to do any of that stuff because, like I said, I was always doing what I should have been doing. But on this particular day, this person was like, "Hey, we should play hooky," and I had never did that before, so I was like, "You know what? Maybe we should." So, in order to do that, now you have to realize back in the day, if kids were like in the hallways, they had those hallway monitors and they would be asking you, show me your pass or whatever. So you have to kind of sneak in between class doors or lockers to circumvent them seeing you. So we were doing that, making our way. And then just as we were going past the gym class, in gym classes, I don't even know if they still have gym classes these days in schools, but the gym teachers would be instructing the kids with some activity to do. Well, we were walking past the gym class, and this gym teacher happened to see two girls just walking off. So, and it was the male gym class that we were going past, and we're thinking it's really loud in there. The kids are doing whatever they're doing. He's not going to notice us. Well, he did. And he was like, "Hey, you two, hold up." We were like, "Oh, hell no, we're not holding up." So we started to make a mad dash to the doors that would lead to the outside of the school, thinking, once we're outside, we're out of here. Now, have you ever tried to outrun a gym teacher at 11 or 12? Just let me say, it's not going to work, okay? So he's chasing us down the hall and hollering and yelling, and we're like trying to get as close to that door as we can. And we didn't quite make it to the door because he caught up with us, and he grabbed us like, by the collars. And he was like, "Okay, now if you had stopped when I told you to, you probably would have been okay. But now we're going to the principal's office." So I was like, "God dang it. The first time I decided to try to play hooky, and this is what happens." So we're like, trying to plead with them, and we're saying, "Well, don't tell on us. We'll go to class." Too late. So he said, "Give me your name and give me the names of your teachers." So remember, I was like a comic book nerd, you know? And if you remember any of the comic book heroes or villains, they always had the same letter of their first name that started with their last name. So you had Lois Lane, Peter Parker, Bruce Banner. So I said my name was Sherry Spoon. I mean, that's plausible. Someone could have the last name of Spoon somewhere in the world, and they could have, the first name that started with the same initial. That may have been okay, but then he asked my friend her name, and this knucklehead says her name was Frances Fork. So he goes, "Spoon and fork, huh? Come on, both of you guys are going with me." And now we are not only going to see the principal, we're going to talk to your parents because he's thinking at this point that we've, you know, been doing stuff all along with these fake names and running through the hallway and trying to get out the door. And I was like, oh my God, this cannot be happening. So he walks us down to the principal's office, and I'm someone new. They're not used to seeing me, so they're like, "Well, who's this? Who's this student?" And we went through the whole thing with the counselors. That's what it was. So you usually have to go see your counselor whenever you're in trouble. So they took me to my counselor, and of course, my counselor knew my record and knew that, I'm not usually one that gets into trouble. I usually volunteer in the counselor's office and, help other students and things like that. So she said she would take it from there. And luckily for me, because of my not having a prior record or having a good record, she decided it wasn't necessary to call my mom. And she just let me volunteer for her in her office for that hour or 45 minutes. I think their classes were only 45 or 50 minutes back then. So that turned out much better for me than I thought it would. But that was my second lesson in having a partner in crime. And remember, in the first one, she just turned tables really quickly and told the authorities, which was my mom, what had happened. And this one, I just didn't have someone that was as quick thinking on their feet as I am or as quick witted. So she came up with that Francis Fort name. So my first lesson as a kid, now you have to remember this, was if you're going to have a partner in crime, at least have someone that's as smart or as adept as you are and things. But ultimately, my lesson was this is the second time I've gotten into trouble with someone that, I thought I could skirt away with. And this is the second time that I got caught red handed. So at the tender age of 11 or 12, I decided, you know what? Just be right. Just be right in your thinking, right in your acting, and right in your doing. Then you don't have to worry about trying to run away from folks, trying to circumvent or tell a half truth to really be a whole lie, or trying to wiggle your way out of something that you never should have been in with to begin with. Now, don't get me wrong. I know kids will be kids, and I know sometimes in order for us to learn a lesson, we have to be caught up in the circumstance or in the lesson. So that makes sense to me. But as you guys know, when I learn lessons, they're learned, okay, for life. So this is life lessons learned. You all know my mantra. Knowledge is in the knowing, but wisdom is in the doing. And of course, the learning of a lesson is the application of it. So we can't keep saying, I know, and we're doing the same thing. Or you told me that before, but we're still doing the same thing. When you have learned something, you begin to apply it. And as you apply it, you begin to see the results, whether that be rewards or consequences of our actions. So this is Sherry Brantley. Please share with me anytime you had a partner in crime and it either worked out for you? Well, I don't want to talk about crying working out. So, what lessons you would have learned from that and how you were able to make changes in your life to move forward on a better path than the one you had originally chosen. So, please like if you're so inclined. I would love for you to subscribe and I will see my wisdom walkers on the next one. Bye.